Right now, the first major legal challenge to the NSA's sweeping surveillance activities since that top secret program was leaked. The American Civil Liberties Union filing a lawsuit claiming the program goes far beyond the limits set by the Patriot Act. And the suit asks the court to force the government to end the program, purge any records collected, and declare the surveillance unconstitutional. Joining us now, Faith Jenkins, a former prosecutor. Also with us, Esther Panitch, a criminal defense attorney. So, Faith, does the ACLU stand a chance here?
I think they do, John. Normally in these cases, the problem is the agency has to go into court and prove that they have been harmed. And because of the secret nature of these programs, it's really difficult for many agencies to go into court and say, yes, we know that we have been the subject of this unlawful mass surveillance, and therefore we have a case. So in other cases, plaintiffs' lawsuits have been dismissed because they can't even get to the constitutional question because the court says you don't have standing, you can't prove and show that your agency has been spied upon. But here, because of the leaked documents that Snowden released, we know that Verizon Business Network was perhaps releasing metadata from their phone calls to government databases. But ACLU is saying we're a client of Verizon, and therefore now we know we have standing in this case.
Esther, one of the problems that we're dealing with here as journalists is, we're relying on the word of this 29-year-old guy as to what these programs are capable of doing. So, the ACLU is taking that ball and running with it, but how do we know the NSA really is doing all this stuff?
Well, the NSA isn't denying very much of it. They've admitted that they are doing it through Verizon. Now we've learned, at least through the lawsuit, which I pulled on the ACLU website, that other carriers have had to do this as well. And even some of our search engines, like Google, was unwittingly a participant in this. So this is way broader than just Verizon. And it doesn't seem like the government is denying much of it. In fact, they acknowledge the existence of some of the programs, although they say they were acting legally.
In challenging this NSA program, here's what the ACLU is saying in part, Faith. They say, it gives the government a comprehensive record of our associations and public movements, revealing a wealth of detail about our familial, professional, religious, and intimate association. Now, as I understand the NSA counter-argument, they're saying, well, we collect information, but we only process it if there's a need. Does that make a difference?
I don't think it makes a difference at all. And what the ACLU is saying, listen, this is a violation of our First and also Fourth Amendment rights. The First Amendment, freedom of expression and association. Does the government have the right to know who we're communicating with, when we're communicating with them, and look at who our clients are? This is highly sensitive information. And then also the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure. Why are these mass databases, this mass information being collected without warrants? Why is that happening? And so they're saying now we finally have information to know that our agency is susceptible to this program. We now have standing to go into court and challenge the constitutionality of this.
Faith, I'm struggling for analogies here, and admittedly this is an imperfect one, but the government, admittedly, local government, also collects my trash, and it goes to a landfill, and it sits there. And then sometimes, if there's a crime, the government has reason to go back in and dig through that trash and see if it can find evidence of that crime. Isn't that a little bit like what's supposedly happening here?
No, not at all. I mean, here they're saying that this information is being collected, and the reason why is because of for our national security. The ACLU is saying that is not the case. You can't just preemptively collect all of this information and then someday, somewhere down the line, you never know what it's going to be used for because the information is now being saved, it's now being collected, and it's just sitting there.
Esther, your final thought?
Well, the analogy doesn't work because your trash has been abandoned. You have abandoned it. You've relinquished any right to it. Your phone calls are not being abandoned. You are actively making phone calls. And not just that, but the government can also see your location. There's data which shows your latitude and longitude and what cell towers you're bouncing off of when you are making these calls. So it's not just the fact that they know who you called and when you called, it's where you called from. This is the slippery slope that we all warn about. Anytime you hear lawyers talking about a slippery slope, we are living it. We are going down now.
So I didn't win the argument, huh? I guess no law school for me. Esther Panitch,
It was a good try.
All right, I tried. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I thought it was an interesting analogy.
Well, my co-anchor gives me
So
credit
I'll give you
anyway.
some credit.